What's up, stars? Welcome back. This is my album of the year list, and I have two stacks. And this isn't just albums, this is demos, promos, releases. There are a ton that I did not get, whether I didn't know they came out until it was too late, or I just haven't bought it yet. One I was really hoping to have by now was the was by a band called Big Chef. But unfortunately, shipping didn't work out, and they had to resend. There were very few albums that actually did not make this list. And mind you, this is all fluctuating, so it really depends on the mood. But without any further ado, oh god. First up, Impurist with Punishment Without Mercy. This is great blackened death metal. Brutal Cave was awesome to tell me about this, and they actually gave me a code that was specifically for me on my old channel, Grim Reviews. And I will make sure I can still use that, as that does help. Next up is Ghoul, Noxious Concoctions. It was really fun hearing these, especially after I saw them live in Municipal Waste. Great death thrash. Next up is some stinky old death metal. You guys love stanky death metal. Cardiac Arrest, Cardiac Arrest, The Stench of Eternity. This is some gnarly stuff. I mean, you look at the artwork and you just know it's... I didn't do that for the other two, but whatever. Next up is some more death metal. This is Brazen Tongue with Of Crackling Embers and Sorrows Drowned. I thought this was some black metal or like war metal when I first got it, and it is not. It is death metal. Very weird death metal, but it absolutely fucking rips. There are riffs that just, it sticks in your head. Next up, this is like some 80s, I don't know, I guess I've heard people say this was like new wave British heavy metal, and absolutely sounds like that. From what I remember, I haven't heard it in a minute, but it was good enough to make my list. Actually, for like a month straight, this was in it. This was Final Resting Place with Prelude to Extinction. If I'm thinking about the wrong album, please correct me, because there were quite a few albums that looked very similar, and yeah. Next up, this shouldn't technically be in here, but Warflurch with Shittier and Slimier. This is like old demo rehearsal sort of stuff, but it was released this year. So, and mind you, this is only stuff that's on physical that I own. So, unfortunately, the new Cure album is not on there, though that was very good. Next up, this is a band my friend Always Lethargic showed me. Check out his channel. He has like a couple of videos on there already, and they are phenomenal. He I was really getting into like gore grind this year and like slam and black metal, stuff that's actually good and not just I don't know, shit like TX2. It says fetal fluids to expurgate with in need of cadavers, confessions of a medical examiner. Great, great, great album. It's 40 tracks and it's still fairly short. Um, that's great. Next up is Flesh Mangled 2024 promo. This absolutely slams. If you don't know Flesh Mangled, dude, get on this. The vocalist and guitarist, Julian Gonzalez, does a great job on his channel. He got me into some of the stuff I'm into. Not as much, but definitely in there. Another one that was told to me by someone who works with the band Hideous Divinity, who may or may not be on here. Hint, hint. Wounds with Ruin. This album was interesting, to say the least. Definitely not something I listen to all the time, but for what it was, I absolutely adored it. Next up is some weird, spacey death metal sort of stuff. This is Whisper with Xenogenesis. Another Brutal K Productions one that I bought early on in the year, and I love this. I mean, this was definitely good if you wanted just some weird riffs there. Next up, this band might be a bit controversial now, but the vocalist is a piece of shit. This is Vulvodynia with Etabine, something like that. I don't even know how to say the name. Absolutely killer slamming deathcore. There's a it might have been track 6 that I'm thinking of. That I absolutely adored. I absolutely love Vulvodynia. They got me into slam. I know Duncan Bentley or whatever wasn't the best, but then again, who is the best? Not me. Next up is some great deathcore. If you like slams, you like stuff like Lorna Shore and Infinite Annihilator, but they actually do experimentation and don't just do the same tired things. Lorna Shore, after like two releases of it. This is To the Grave with Everyone's a Murderer. I actually have a shirt for this. I fucking love these guys. These dudes know how to slam. One of the deathcore bands I still care about. Next up is some more great death metal. Tombstoner, Rot, Stink, Rip. Absolutely highly recommend this if you like just straightforward, brutal riffs that pummel you. Tombstoner is absolutely a fitting name because you feel like you've been put into a tombstone after this album. Next up is Terminal Nation Echoes of the Devil's Den. This is like great, thrashy sort of stuff. That artwork, man, I mean, absolutely love this. Um, Honestly, this is some stuff that I would show my dad. Next up is one of the few black metal albums on here. This is Red Hammer with Godslayer. Great album. Absolutely love the art. Uh, From the Abyss, The Joker, Godslayer, Dragon's Burn, Blood of Wolves. So from track 2 to track 6 is like that sweet spot. Maybe track 7, but yeah, those 2 to 6 for the tracks, those are like the sweet spots. Next up, this one might surprise some of you. It surprised me.
I'm not quite sure how to help you with that.
Sorry about that. That was Alexa. This is Swallow the Sun with Shining. Now the production is bad, which is why it's not my top albums. But at the same time, I love Swallow the Sun, and I feel like the production, I can overlook it. The Funeral Doom is there, and it for me, it's Swallow the Sun doing what they do best. Not my favorite by any means, but next up is some like atmospheric, epic. There's another word for this album that I'm trying to find. Black metal called Summoner's Circle with Cult. First Summoner's Circle album I've ever owned, and I'm so glad I finally do because these guys, man, fucking shred. Next up is Suffering Souls, an iconic taste of demise. Got a poster with this, and I'm not gonna grab it. It's kind of beat up anyway. But this was some more great death metal that definitely got overlooked. And more death metal, I got the limited edition of this. So this is Suffer with Grand Canvas of the Aesthete. So I got the limited edition. So it came with this, along with this pin or button or whatever you want to call it, in this weird bag with what I'm thinking is just fake blood. This, hopefully YouTube doesn't take this down for that, but they're a bunch of fucking pussies, so who knows. That was what that came with, along with some stickers. Next up, more. I think this was the first one Brutal Cave actually told me about. This is Sinistrum with Infernal Dawn. This absolutely shreds, and I remember listening to it like 4 or 5 times back to back. First day I got it, and it's one of those you just want to repeat it. Next up is another one Brutal Cave told me about, and this one technically came out last year, but the CD came out this year, so I'm counting it. This is Skythrow with Envy is the Filth of the Soul. Great death metal that just so good. It punishes you from beginning to end. Next up is some French death metal. This is Corpsevore with Feed the Plague. Just, I don't know. I don't usually listen to a whole bunch of French bands, but this album shreds. And I remember Classy Lonnie Metal talked about it in a video he did before his hiatus, or not really hiatus, but his pause break from YouTube, and that made me want to listen to it, and I'm so glad that I did. Next up, this is Phlegmesis with the new wave of Rotten Fornication. Gnarly death metal. Another band that just kind of makes you want to vomit. I mean, that artwork would look so cool on a shirt. Next up, this was from my friends in this band, and they actually signed it. This is Precordial Thump with Nothing Left to Live For. Absolutely amazing. I appreciate you, Jason, for actually coming out and putting this in my mailbox in October. Dude, you guys are honestly one of the best local bands to Detroit and Michigan in general, in my opinion. Favorite songs: Imitation of Decay, the re-recorded version of Straight Jacket, Condoxia, Unresponsive, End of Eras, Nightmare Containment. Actually, I'm gonna put that over there. Next up is one of the first gore grind albums I actually got of this year, and this is Posthumous Regurgitation with the Coroner's Guide to Cadaveric Cuisine. When I first saw this pop up on Gore Grinder, it was Coffin Hypoxia that made me want to check it out, and I love that song. And the song before that, Nurgle's Rot, which I believe Wretched Horoscum played when he was showing you what this sounds like. Those two songs are absolute rippers, and definitely my standout tracks. Just great, filthy gore grind that definitely beats a lot. Next up is a Slam album. This is Party Cannon with Injuries Are Inevitable. Love Party Cannon. I mean, if you don't know who they are by now, you come on, dude. Party Cannon, just party. I will have to fix that when I'm not on screen. Okay, this one could be in my top 3, but it fluctuated because I didn't listen to it as much. But this is Nile with The Underworld Awaits Us All. I love Nile. This album is so good. Better than the last couple of albums. Nile was one of the first tech death bands I ever got into because of Killbot and Gorgortak, and I mean, they definitely made me feel like they brought back the riffs from Ithphalic, Annihilation of the Wicked, and In Their Darkened Shrines, and up the ante on them. This is definitely worth your time. Great tech death album. Next up, another one that I wish was higher, but My Dying Bride with Immortal Binding. This one was kind of hard to get into. This is good for like a gloomy, slow day. Whether you're depressed, you're at work, you're at school, you're wherever the hell you may be, absolutely listen to My Dying Bride's Immortal Binding. My favorite might be Feel the Misery, but to me, they do no wrong. Next up is Necrotum with The Flesh Exhumation. This is more nasty death metal, grindy at points, but for the most part, it's just filthy death metal. Next up, Necrot Lifeless Birth. I love this. Not my favorite from Necrot, but definitely a good return. Good to see these guys are doing what the old school and new school bands are doing and still pulling original riffs. Now this one definitely would be higher. But I messed up, but oh well, this list fluctuates, so just letting you know that now. Corpse Pile with hardcore death metal. I mean, come on. It's beat down, slammy sort of stuff, and it makes you just hate. I mean, Maggot Stomp knew what the fuck they were doing, and I love that you can just see disc like this. That actually kind of worried me, but oh well. Next up, Fathomless Ritual with Hymns for the Lesser Gods. I actually got this around the time it actually originally came out with the shirt. I do not know where the shirt is. It's somewhere in my closet. I love this. This is the only Transcending Obscurity album I have on this list. Unfortunately, I couldn't get a lot of the Transcending Obscurity albums. I'm sorry, but that was some good, weird tech. I don't want to say technical, but I don't know how else to describe it. Next up is by Fupa Goddess, which is Fuck Your Face. I love Fupa Goddess, and these guys just know how to make great, like, mince core sort of stuff, I guess. I don't really know what they would be considered. I just kind of listen to them because I think the name alone is funny, and they put me in a good mood. I said these guys might be on my list, and surprise, surprise, they are. Hideous Divinity with Unextinct. The guy who helps produce them, I believe, told me about this and was basically hyping up in my DMs, and I went and I bought it. And I gotta say, this absolutely fucking shreds. I don't typically listen to them, but this made me want to check them out. Next up, Black Curse with Burning in the Celestial Prison. This is also some black or death metal that I thought was like borderline war metal. Just looking at that art, but no, this is like hateful, satanic, just death metal. Next up is Morbid Grave, the Slime Crawlers, plus the Pandemic Mutations EP. Great stuff. I think I had the. This might have. No, sorry, this is not the one that I'm thinking of. Sorry. This is some nasty, nasty death metal. Next up, the only goth album, Clan of Zymox with Exodus. I love Clan of Zymox. I found them through Killbot when he did his CD collection, and if I can find it, yeah, this album right here was fantastic. I didn't know they were having a new one come out, and the song Jasmine and Roses, one of my favorite goth songs to sing. Opium and Poison. Love them. Next up is some Death Doom. This is Coffins with Sinister Oath. One of my favorite bands now. Absolutely love the fuck out of this. This is fantastic. Now this one is weird because I actually initially bought the cassette of this being Disrotter with Restless Death. This is great death grind sort of stuff. And it came with their Plague demo. And then later I ended up actually ordering it. The song Thriving in Decay is amazing. I also have 2 Disrotter koozies, and no, none of you can have them because I use both of them. But absolutely amazing death grind if you just want something just nasty to listen to. Next up is EBDB Existence for Dummies, Chapter 3. Absolutely love this. This is great. More just great death grind sort of stuff. Just so good. Next up is some classic new wave of British heavy metal. If you guys know this, don't know this band, I don't know what to tell you. You should. Judas Priest, Invincible Shield. This is what I feel like Iron Maiden should be taking notes from. Iron Maiden, Senjutsu was not the best album. I feel like Caught Somewhere in Time cleared that and could rival this. And this is much more modern than that album. Step up your game. This is absolutely filled to the brim with catchy riffs, catchy hooks. Panic Attack, Serpent and the King, Devil in Disguise, Gates of Hell, Crown of Thorns, Trial by Fire, Sons of Thunder, Giants in the Sky. I mean, oh my god. Now this does have flaws, but this is so fucking good. Next up, these guys I love, and I only own one other album of theirs. One of the first deathcore bands out there, along with Suicide Silence, Whitechapel, Carnifex, turned Tech Death, and this is their first album in a decade, I believe. Job for a Cowboy, Moon Healer. I would not stop listening to this for a solid month and a half. And somehow it still did not end up on my Spotify Wrapped. Next up is Cerebral Desolation with Filth. Filth is fitting because that is how this album sounds. Just nasty, filthy, brutal assault on the ears, and it just so good. Next up, this is the Impalement demo. I actually have to get a new copy. This one is cracked, but this demo right here is fucking brutal. 2 tracks of brutal goodness. Next up is some more like gore grind sort of stuff. Meat Knife with Junkie Town. Great, just brutal stuff. I mean, I know I'm repeating myself for a lot of these, but there's no words for me to describe them. I mean, I can't even choose a song. Next up is Autolith with Artificial Heaven. One of the first albums I bought, and this is really weird because this is like death metal, but feels very atmospheric at times. Um, and this was one of the first ones that I remember just kind of being like, oh, that looks interesting. Next up is one of my favorite Slam albums of the year, if not my favorite, along with another one, Cephalotripsy with Epigenetic Neurogenesis. I played this to death when I first got it, and it still just slams. Next up, if you like Cattle Decapitation style lyrics and you're just fed up with society, misanthropic tunes, this is for you. This is Anti Sapien with uh, Calculating Obsolescence, I believe is what that says. I can't remember the name. Yeah, Calculating Obsolescence. I love the fact that it has side A as side ass and side B as side barf. Basically just cow decapitation on steroids. I had to order this through Soul Grinders zine, and that's the first time I've ever bought anything that way through PayPal, and it was worth it. Next up is more death metal. Kind of the same vein. This is Humanity's End with Plague of Cancers. And this album, oh my god, this album is so good, and yet I wish more people knew about this. Next up is like some black, dark metal. This is Dark Reflections with Everlasting Light. And the name is deceiving because you feel like you're in an everlasting black abyss by the time this album ends. Just dark, disturbing, heavy, but not just in riffs. It's heavy on your ears. Next up is Darkness Everywhere to Conquer Eternal Damnation. This was like fun thrash metal. Somewhat death metal-y, but something I could see coming out of the 80s. Now, this might be my favorite Slam album of the year, other than the Self-Tripsy. 200 Stab Wounds with Manual Manic Procedures. I mean, this album slams. If you like that old school Devourment and Suffocation sound, this is for you. My favorite song is probably Gross Abuse. I love 200 Stab Wounds. I mean, they're getting. Now, this one hurts to put this low, but I didn't like all the features. Aborted Vault of Horrors. Great album. Just wish there weren't so many fucking features. Favorite songs are the Golgathon and Hellbound. Those two are absolutely ripping. Um, just I wish it had more than just feature, 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 feature. I feel like that took away from it. And if you're wondering if I got it, I also would have included the new Ingested album. Next up is some porno grind or porno gore, carnal diaphragma, the Garden of Earthly Delights. I remember seeing the gore grind video from Killbot, and these guys were in it, and I thought, oh shit, they're getting a new album. Absolutely love how bright and colorful it is, but this is not nearly as porno to me as some of their other works, but still definitely is there. This was my first time listening to this band, as they never really seemed to catch my eye. This is Benighted with Egg Bomb. This third song, Morgue, my favorite track, and my god, is this great. It's like Aborted, but on steroids. Next up is a brutal EP by a band called Castrated, called Surgical Vicissitude. Just short, fast, and right to the point. Just, oh, so good. Next up is some brutal deathcore sort of stuff. This is A Baited Mass of Flesh with Doomed Inception. First time hearing these guys, and these guys absolutely fucking slam. Get a cool sticker. Oh, just realized. I found a lot of these through my pal Lonnie Classy Metals Instagram. So shout out to him for actually showing a lot of these. A lot of the stuff that he showed would have been on this list, and this probably would have been a lot different. But next up, just short of making my top albums, but still one of my favorites, and I got it for Christmas. Defeated Sandy, Chronicles of Lunacy. This is such a good return, and I'm glad I have a fourth CD of theirs. Still not close to completing it, and definitely not my favorite, but definitely worth the hype. Next up, just short of making it to my top 3, ACXDC or Antichrist Demon Core with Goat. Great power violence and one of the most pissed off albums I have ever heard. Oh my god. Next up, Taking Bronze is Nails. Every bridge burns. If you are pissed off and you want to punch someone, but you don't want deathcore or down tempo, this right here is for you. The song Give Me the Painkiller is absolutely my favorite track, and this is what I wanted Nails to be after their last album, which is still one of the angriest albums I know and own, You Will Never Be One of Us. Absolutely vicious power violence. Number 2, this album is so good, especially if you are high on fire with Cometh the Storm. This is absolutely my favorite High on Fire album, and there's just it's perfect for me. But what could be more perfect than that? Ladies and gentlemen, my favorite album is a Death Doom album. And it is not on Spotify as far as I know. Altar of Gore, Litanies of the Unceasing Agonies. This album absolutely shreds. It's slow, it's doomy, it's death metal, and it knows how to pack a punch. When I listen to it on Bandcamp when I'm not at home, I just immerse myself into what the band is named, Altar of Gore. You are this figure right here, and this is happening around you, and you feel it. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Merry Christmas, and shine on.